So the RSPB, the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds, has brought the knives out to the Conservative government the other day. They released this little thing on Twitter saying, "Liars" in big red letters, Michael Gove, Rishi Sunak and Therese Coffey. And the context is such that they are reneging on promises for environmental protections. You said you wouldn't weaken environmental protections, and yet that's just what you're doing. You lie and you lie again, and we've had enough. Red. Yesterday, your government announced the first reversal in environmental legislation for decades, which was them changing the ways in which new housing developments have to deal with pollution, for example, which is, again, something that I disagreed with. And all the while, you've pretended to be a government that cares about nature. It's now very patently clear that you do not. I can't believe that the Conservative Party stopped caring about nature. I am shocked and appalled. Here's a record of just some of your lies on the environment. In the 2019 manifesto, they pledged to deliver the most ambitious environmental programme of country on earth. In his first speech as Prime Minister, Sunak said he would deliver on the manifesto promise of protecting the environment. And on the 17th of August, they said they were committed to protecting the environment for future generations, which indeed are all lies. And in just July this year, they wrote to OEP and said they were clear in Parliament that the government's commitment to uphold environmental protections. And there we see the big red letters calling these out for the lies that they are. But the logo is a tree. Exactly how could the political party, with the logo as a tree, forget about the need to protect the environment? For environmental protection, the tree logo is meaningless now. It's clearly some false advertising here. I can't believe they would do such a thing. We need the lies to stop and work to save nature in this country. To start, our member supporters and everyone who loves nature demand it. And there were plenty of supportive comments. This got how many likes and retweets did this get? 41k likes, 91.1k retweets. So clearly people had large amounts of agreement with this. Some people, however, were not happy. They were not happy. And the RSPB have been forced to apologise for this, because apparently it's bad when you attack politicians for the policy they do. You have to attack the policy specifically. You know, it's not like the politicians themselves implemented the policy or anything, but here's their response, here's their apology to the people who said that they were being mean and nasty to these hard-working and completely innocent Conservative ministers. "We are in a nature and climate emergency, and that demands urgent action. The RSPB is deeply frustrated by the government's reneging on its environmental promises, but that frustration led us to attack the people and not the policy. This falls well below the standard we set for ourselves, and for that we apologise. We will continue to campaign vigorously on behalf of nature, but we will always do so in a polite and considered manner." Your apology has 12.5k impressions. The original hateful tweet has 2.6 billion impressions. If you're sorry, why haven't you deleted it? Because it's clear, actually, this is just a placation that they're doing here, because they were correct, of course, to attack the government for their failure to uphold environmental standards, and to attack the people. Indeed, they should never have apologised. This is cuck behaviour, what this is, right? So much for cancel culture, so much for the insidious nature of people being cancelled for their opinions. But no, they have been cancelled surely for it, and the apology is a humiliating climb down for people who are never in the wrong to begin with. They should never have apologised for it, because again, the people do indeed do the policies. Obviously, nerds like Tom Harwood are getting mad about it. It is pathetic that they apologise, but whatever, you know, they've apologised now. Now, again, there's literally nothing to apologise for here, but what I'm going to say on top of all of this, right, that people have said, oh, you know, it's unfair to criticise the people, but not the policy. I couldn't care that those responses are. But the biggest response that people have had to this is, oh, well, you're a charity and you shouldn't be engaging in politics. You should be apolitical as a charity. And this is the most, traumatically stupid statement anybody could ever make. The idea that charities are apolitical when, you know, literally the vast majority of charities deal with the crisis of politics. In fact, charities are specifically existent because of the failures of the state to take action that the charities then need to, in the absence of state intervention, be able to protect as far as private interests are concerned. Charities are always political. They're expressly political. And the same rightoids that were defending the existence of the LGB Alliance, which is in no way a charity, it's just there as a hate group against trans people. But it has political aims, because of course it does. All charities have political aims, and their political aims is to destroy the rights of trans people. Well, that's in my opinion. That's what I view their advocacy as, in my opinion, right? They will state officially they're there to protect lesbian, gay and bisexual people outside of the trans umbrella. LGB cuts TQ, right, for example. They will say that that's their agenda, and they have every right to say that is, but it's not what it looks like from my end. In my opinion, they are just an anti-trans hate group, in my opinion. But they still have registered charity, and they're engaging in political action. Do you think Shelter, right, the anti-homelessness charity, registered charity there, are just doing a thing on the side and just forgetting what happens with government policy? Of course they on. Of course they aren't. It's obvious that Shelter are going to be there to try and agitate to change government policy to meet the utilitarian ends that they are looking to engage in as a charity. And just like the RSPB will say, we're here to protect birds, but only from the private sector. We're not going to protect birds from negative impacts of government policy, and we'll just ignore when government policy is bad for the aims that we want to do. And of course they're going to engage in the political angle. What do you mean be apolitical as a charity? That's completely nonsensical. Any amount of action that gets taken by a state will impact the needs of every charity. Like, for example, things like Fairful UK. A bunch of think tanks are technically charities, and they want to see right-wing policy enacted. And they will engage with governments who try and see their policy change to be right-wing in nature rather than left-wing in nature from places like the RSPB or from Shelter or whatever it is. And they have, I think that it's bad that they do that, but under the current system, they do have every right to do that, and they are a political entity. Just like every other charity is a political entity. It's so stupid, it's so dumb. Almost as dumb as them actually apologising for it after being cancelled by the online mob for daring to take a political stance on an issue that affects the habitats of birds. And in fact, in what way can environmental charities ever take any action that doesn't involve looking at policy? They only look at policy, because policy is what drives basically every amount of environmental impact. The way we structure our economy is obviously down to policy. The regulations we have, environmental regulations to deal with the negative externalities of a market economy, that's all new party political policy. There are no apolitical charities. It's the dumbest argument. It's so stupid. Literally, it gets to the point where we have tweets as dumb as this from Tom Harwood, right, friend of the show. The barriers to growth and modernisation in the 1970s and 80s were the National Union of Mine Workers and the Trade Unions Congress, right? The barrier to growth was indeed workers asking to be remunerated fairly during an inflationary period. And in the 21st centuries, it's the RSPB and the CPRE, right? People wanting to deal with the negative externalities of a neoliberal market economy where profligate corporations get to do whatever the hell that they want, right? These are the real issues. And as I said, I've criticised this guy. Basically, he wants to free up all regulations so developers can turn us into Coruscant, plough over all of the fields, right? I'm becoming Alan Partridge. I have imbibed the Alan Partridge essence. You see a nice family in a field, and you want to plough them into the field. Because I don't necessarily disagree with it. We need to build more, and we're going to have to be environmentally conscious in the way that we build. But the idea that just saying maybe don't destroy habitats and rip up all environmental regulations for new developments, as if that's somehow the main barrier towards growth in our economy, it's complete nonsense. And of course, Tom Harwood, in response to a criticism, said that these people genuinely want to make us all poorer, as if degrowth necessarily means being poorer, because it doesn't. Well, that's not what degrowth is. I'm not even a degrowther. I don't even believe that degrowth is necessary. But even I know that degrowth isn't just wanting people to be poorer. This is, oh god, these people are so. Why do we? These people are in control of the information that we get. Very silly. Very, very silly. What I missed when I covered it my last time as well is that there was an RSPB trustee specifically who had made the official complaint to them to get them to do this kind of humiliating kind of climb down for the government. And it was some guy from Policy Exchange, this kind of opaquely funded right-wing think tank, or ironically also a charity, right? Also technically a charity, but they're allowed to make political right-wing agitprop for the Conservative government, and they don't get called out for not being apolitical like the RSPB were.
We've become a tough democracy, and let's not pretend otherwise. They just run the place.
Exactly. Regular donors who donate to the RSPB for them to try and action government policy, that's a big no-no. That's cancel culture. And that is charities getting into politics. A right-wing think tank funded by billionaires that we're not allowed to know about because they receive the literal lowest grade for transparency from the regulator that deals with this kind of stuff. They can go and critique the charities for critiquing the government to support the policy to be more polluting for the private sector. They're allowed to be more polluting. And they doesn't get questioned at all. Doesn't get questioned at all by these so-called anti-cancel culture types. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.